Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the second episode of the week of Church is Stupid.
Comma but.
I'm Andy.
I'm Ruth.
Hey, I'm Elijah.
You're getting worse and worse at that every time. It's going to escalate and be a problem.
Or de-escalate.
Eventually, it'll be like the whole episode, and at the end, he'll be like, "And I'm Elijah."
Just a gigantic gap of time.
Yeah, I'll say, I'm Elijah. So anyway, and then you'll cut it off, and that'll be the end.
That'll be the end of the... Okay.
All right. All right, let's restart and do that, okay?
Okay.
Yeah, let's go.
Okay,
right.
Gotcha. So, earlier this week, we started the conversation about looking at movies, and we also started the conversation about McFlurries versus shakes and other different interesting topics along that matter, which, if you'd like to give your input on, all of those are still available on Facebook for you to go and let us know your opinion and yell at us thoroughly. That being said... Today, we're going to be talking about the good side of movies because we harped on some Christian movies pretty bad last episode. So, where do you want to start?
So, I think it's important to note that the intention behind Christian films, I think, is a good one. A large portion of the intention behind Christian media is to create a safe space for that entertainment, for Christian families to not have to worry about whether or not there's swearing, whether or not there's scenes that are inappropriate for their families to watch, and also to summarize it into a nice moral lesson. And I think there is merit to that. Like, I don't want my 2-year-old child to be listening to the F word every 5 seconds, obviously. That would be very bad. But, like, creating safe spaces where you know you can watch a film as a family and you're not going to go home going, ooh, maybe I shouldn't have taken my kids to that. You know what I mean? Plus it helps, there is also something to surrounding yourself in good things. Yeah. And making sure that helps to lead you in your spiritual walk. So I think there's some merit to that. And of course, when we talk about Christian movies and Christian productions, I think we sort of delved a little bit into television as well. We can't possibly not address the greatest gift to humankind that has ever existed, which is that of VeggieTales.
Boy, do I have a song for you. I can't sing it.
Oh,
I was waiting.
That was the biggest letdown of my whole life.
I'm sorry. We will get DMCA. I just will sing it so great and so on precise with Larry. I even have a tuba stored in the back.
He doesn't say, though, we have a song for you. It says that we have a show for you.
But that's okay.
Darn it.
You already messed it up.
I'm fired.
Yep.
So, yes, let's talk about VeggieTales.
I love VeggieTales.
I love it.
Thanks, Elijah.
I love VeggieTales.
Okay, but the main thing that we have to talk about here, old VeggieTales versus new VeggieTales.
No, we can't, because I try very hard to pretend like new VeggieTales doesn't exist. In my head, it's not there. If I have to think about its existence, then I have to remember it's there.
I can't truly actually harp on new VeggieTales because, of course, I don't really watch new VeggieTales.
One episode.
They have wordy.
I think I watch. It's QWERTY.
Whatever.
It's QWERTY.
We're failing it. We're trying to avoid copyright laws. That's what we're doing.
It's QWERTY?
No, you just said it wrong.
No.
Yeah. It's the
letters on the keyboard.
The letter format, QWERTY.
QWERTY
Oh,
is
really?
QWERTY.
Yeah.
That's why?
Yeah.
Did you say it into the microphone for other people? I don't know if they heard.
Okay. On the keyboard, it's QWERTY, which is QWERTY, and yep. Okay, you're welcome.
That's so awesome. I never knew that. I'm really
I don't know. I think I saw a few episodes. Actually, I think maybe right when they brought it back on TV when I was younger-ish. But I wasn't really paying attention, so I can't... It's definitely... When it first started coming back, it definitely was not in the same type of format or anything as, like, classic VeggieTales at all. I can't really truly harp on it, obviously, because I haven't really watched enough of it. But I miss the old character designs. I can say that much. I think all the charm was so good in the original VeggieTales.
So let's talk about VeggieTales. What's good about VeggieTales?
We're already going back to harping, so let's go back on what we like about it.
I really liked VeggieTales because it was 100% entertaining to watch as a kid. Like, absolutely. I never remember watching an episode of VeggieTales as a child where I sat there and was like, I am really sick of this.
Well, you and I rewatched some of the old episodes
And we still
like
loved them.
a year or two ago, and we were having. I mean, of course, a lot of it was nostalgia, but it held up. I think better than we really thought it did. Like it was still entertaining to watch.
Well, at the time, it was pretty good animation for what was coming out. I mean, it wasn't obviously the greatest, but it was still pretty good. And it was fun.
Yeah.
The characters were lovable. I mean, who could ever forget silly songs with Larry?
Exactly.
Oh,
Everybody's got a water buffalo.
Where is my hairbrush? Oh,
See, you guys just said two
where's
right
my
at the top of your
hairbrush?
head. Like, yeah.
Then there's Barbara Manatee. There's some
Barbara Manatee.
cheeseburger.
Manatee.
Although,
But yes, VeggieTales did that excellently. The grasping of even young minds and all that.
I feel like they really understood who they were trying to reach. They understood what they were about, and they didn't try to make fake problems to have fake resolutions. It was really just relatable. I mean, there's the episode where the kid breaks his dad's favorite bowling plate. I don't know if you remember that one, but he's terrified of telling his father about this plate, so he tells little lies, and they get bigger and bigger. It's the big fib.
Yeah, I do remember the episode. I didn't remember the reason for the fibbing, but I do remember the
I think
The
it was that
reason-
one.
The big fib. I'm sorry, I was reading some other facts on VeggieTales. The reason that all the fibbing started was because Junior broke his dad's famous like bowling plate.
Yeah, yep. You're
but
like
she-
about 2
she
minutes
just said
behind.
this. Yeah, I know that you're
Oh
on
my
your phone, but
gosh.
she
Okay,
did
then I
say it.
really did miss. I'm
Quite
sorry.
funny.
I was
no,
looking
you're
up,
fine, but it was just really funny.
I was just gonna let you go to see how far.
I'm
you could get.
sorry. I was looking up this VeggieTale fact that
Well, and I
was
feel like that's
confirming.
something that you could just tell that they really knew kids and knew how
Yeah.
to, and that was even evident in their opening. I don't know, like that opening that they had was just so classic, and it was like the reason why we're here. It had all like their, I think it was the people who worked on it, all of their kids, and it was just adorable. I played that little song. I don't remember it now, but it was just really cute. Now that I'm a parent, I'm looking back, I'm like, my baby. But it just, to me, that was such a great example of what Christian media can be, because it didn't try to be something it wasn't. Until now we have new VeggieTales.
Okay, but my question for you is, where did you ever see those episodes?
Of VeggieTales?
VHS.
Yeah, VHS.
VHS.
I don't think they've ever been on TV. That's my sorry. That's
TV?
my that's my
That's
like,
true.
Like that's like my thought is like all of those. I think the only place that I've ever seen them is either on VHSs that we own, like personally as a family, or out of grabbing them out of Sunday school.
Or, I will tell you, they did release the VeggieTales Jonah movie, came out in theaters.
Oh
No, I
yeah.
do
Remember that?
Yeah.
It
Yeah, I
did come
remember
out
that
in
too.
theaters. Well, and I think that,
I wonder how it did. Sorry.
I don't know, but I still remember the movie. That's a fair point. I don't know that it actually was on any TV stations, but it did so well. Like, I remember a lot. The other one that I really liked as a kid, that was a Christian one. I don't know, Andy, if you've ever heard of it, but me and Elijah talk about it. McGee and Me.
I don't know if I know what that is.
It was like this kid who drew this little guy who would hang out with him.
Yeah, it was
McGee.
a kid who had a 2D animated buddy like always on his shoulder or something. We were
classic.
talking about it because you sparked something in me when you brought it up, but I really have only seen like 1 or 2 episodes from it.
I
But,
don't recognize it at all.
And there's the radio show Adventures in Odyssey. Do you remember? Did you know Adventures in Odyssey? No.
I knew about
Did
it
you
too.
know
Another thing, I
Adventures in
knew about
Odyssey?
it, but I never watched. It was on WLMB, like the Christian station, and I remember seeing it on, but I never really watched it.
You guys don't know about the Imagination Station?
Not really.
Oh my goodness.
No,
I'm glad that you do, at the very least.
But
I
I feel like
yeah.
the best Christian media I've seen is kids Christian media. I feel like the people who do that have produced it really well because
Yeah.
they understand what they're reaching for. The problem is that as we grow older and we can handle more content and more real problems, I feel like Christian media tends to shy away from those, if that makes sense.
Well, a lot of VeggieTales is probably a shining example of Christian media that is obviously like unashamed of their faith, but also tries to focus more on just teaching kids how to be good people and not how to be just specifically good Christians. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because they use their faith and they use Christianity as a as like a medium to like get that point across. But I think at the end of the day, VeggieTales isn't Christian indoctrination as much as it is teaching kids how to be good people. That's how I really always viewed it, and that's why I still really it's still very dear to my heart.
Well, and I think the Bible stories that I remember the most, even having gone to seminary, having gone to my undergrad in pastoral ministries, are the ones that I watched in VeggieTales. Because they stood out so strongly.
Yeah.
What we were just talking, Andy, right, about our Kids Minute and doing Jonah and the Ninevites slapping each other with fish.
Yes.
And Bailey had to ask if that was a real thing that happened in Scripture. And Andy, you were there to tell him.
It was part of the Jonah movie. It didn't happen any further than. Sorry, I know I'm relating it to the Veggie. It was part of the Jonah movie that happened in. Sorry, I think that's the only time that is mentioned in VeggieTales.
I don't know what's happening right now.
Anyhow, but like it's common enough reference. I think most people I encounter who are Christians or grew up in the church, when I bring up VeggieTales, we all start singing some ridiculous song from VeggieTales because it was just so good. Whereas there's other ones that are much more niche, like The Donut Man, which everyone always looks at me like I'm crazy when I talk about that because it was something I watched, which is Love's Like a Donut.
Yeah, I'm looking at you like you're crazy
Life
right now.
without Jesus is like a donut, like a donut, like a donut, because there's a big hole in the middle.
I got you.
And
I
Jesus
understood the
fills it
reason.
with the little donut.
I understood the reason. I didn't understand it, but it's okay.
But no, I remember
no,
that.
you're
But like,
good.
there are some things that are, just like most things. Some are very like where you're from, your context, and some are a little bit more universal. And I feel like VeggieTales is one of those few Christian media outreaches that is much more universal.
So here's an interesting question. When I think of VeggieTales, I think of the really, like mostly the original, like VHSs that were retelling Bible stories. How many of the other types have you seen where instead of retelling Bible stories, they're just parodies of other movies? Because like they made a lot. Like I think that some people may have actually grown up with that over the Bible stories because they made like Lord of the Beans.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Minnesota Cuke instead of like Indiana Jones. Like they did they actually did a ton of those that I completely forgot about until I read this.
I watched those.
I don't think I watched almost any of them because I grew up with like the Bible story ones, and I don't think I ever really watched those other ones. But that's the thing, like they didn't only do Bible stories, you know, like they were appealing to.
I watched
to like that crowd as well.
They did a Christmas one. Now I have to look.
I think they did a little Drummer Boy.
VeggieTales.
Oh, they definitely
Christmas.
did a little Drummer Boy.
Yeah,
because that was Junior.
Yeah.
Drummer
See,
Boy.
that's not the one I'm thinking of though. I'm thinking of the one. Was it Buzz?
Oh,
was it
gosh.
it was like a doll? I don't even remember now. I don't remember
The
what
toy
one it is.
that saved Christmas.
That's what it was. Yeah.
I remember that one.
I remember that one
I liked
too.
that one.
We're going on a nostalgia run.
We
real
are.
quick.
I'm sorry. So this turned into good Christian media. Turned into just let's talk about how great VeggieTales is. But I think it's important to note that it's possible, and that there are ways to be entertained in a very family friendly and scriptural way. And so, like I said, I feel like what's happened as people grow up with Christian media is kind of what happens in how we teach in our churches, which is we have a really hard time exiting that Sunday school mentality. We really like to keep things in the very simple, the easy to summarize, get one thing out of it, and then you feel good because you go home with your one piece of information that you needed to learn, and you come back next week for the next one.
Yeah.
And when that's your whole faith experience, it's hard to take that into the real world and apply it, if that makes any sense. And I think that shallowness comes through in a lot of our generation. We see that shallowness that comes through. I'm sorry, Andy will point out once again, my generation is different than Andy's generation.
I'll be honest. I wasn't paying attention to most of what you said, and I'm very distracted by myself trying to find an old TV show, and that's just my apologies. Okay.
Oh, okay. So thank you for not taking the
I
opportunity to
wasn't
call me
gonna
old.
point it out, but you pointed it out for yourself.
Well, you know.
So thank you.
Some of us are very insecure about their oldness, and that's me.
Literally you.
It's just me. But anyhow, I do think that to me, in some ways, growing up with Christian films can come out again as that fear to delve past that Sunday school mentality. We aren't always good at addressing it and addressing real world situations, because real world situations get really messy, and it's a lot easier to deal with black and white than it is to deal with gray.
Yeah, that applies to anyone with any kind of subject or argument or anything. Everyone loves to argue in black and whites, and there's a time and place for it. But
and that's true, but as a church, we're specifically called to be dealing with those things.
yeah, absolutely.
You're called to not just deal with the easy, but to get down into the core of who you are. Like, being a Christian should be a transformational experience. It shouldn't be, a very shallow one.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that all people, by any means, gosh, that's probably what it sounded like, that everyone has a shallow Christian experience. But I think it's really that supplementing things, like balancing these things out, is what I would really like to look for in the future of Christian media, and what I feel like I'm starting to see in newer Christian films is they're trying to do better to not just escape on, okay, here's our nice one moral lesson and we're cool, and follow the same story format, but they're really trying to branch out and explore. Like, again, I Still Believe, which I admittedly have not seen, but just based on the premise, does not seem like it fits the story formats of most of the things I've seen.
I Still Believe the movie.
That's the name of the movie.
Okay, yeah, you got
Sorry,
you said I Still Believe like you were making a statement.
No, sorry, the movie I Still Believe.
Okay.
Do you believe that that's the case?
Well, but I do think that that's something that is starting to be addressed. What do you guys think? Am I way out on a limb here?
Well, I don't know that I have as much opinion on it as you do, because I don't really pay attention to like a lot of Christian media nowadays.
But see, that's important though, because you are a Christian, are you not?
Yeah.
And do you have any desire to go out and look at Christian movies?
For the most part, no.
Andy?
No.
I would say for the most part, no.
In fact,
and I think something interesting too, though, is that when I was younger and I was around that kind of stuff a lot more. Of course, not only I was young, I was living with my parents, and we were just surrounded by that more often. But I think a lot of those movies and a lot of Christian movies and Christian media I would be exposed to through commercials on like cable, and we haven't had cable for years.
Cable's cheaper. Well, cheaper to advertise on. That's what I meant.
Yeah. So I haven't seen a lot of the same types of advertisements, and I haven't been exposed to a lot of that stuff like I was used to, because now, it's not like you don't see advertisements online or anything. Like, it's quite the opposite, but a lot of them are more actually tailored to you specifically. So I just don't have a lot of experience nowadays with that, probably partly because I'm not as interested, but also because I'm not exposed to it all the time. That's my little. I don't really know if it's like a condition or anything. I just felt like I wanted to say it. It was interesting.
Condition.
No,
Because God's not dead. Courageous. I actually forgot already the name of the other one. Fireproof. Like all of those, I remember seeing on like commercial after commercial when I was younger. But I don't really see a lot of advertisements for that anymore, because I'm not normally like indulging in specific Christian media like online, so I don't really see those types of advertisements. So I'm kind of unaware of what that area in media is like. And so when you're talking about how movies, like Christian movies, are changing a lot, and I just don't know, because I don't really see a lot of it. But to actually go back, and I'm sorry, to go back and actually answer your question, like, no, I don't really have a lot of interest in specifically seeking out specific Christian media, and especially when it comes to like movies and shows and that kind of entertainment. I really don't. I'm not saying I'm opposed to it. It's just not normally my go-to.
Yeah, and I think that that's something that needs to be addressed because, as we pointed out in Christian media and in films and things like that, and as we've been going through these different aspects of Christian media, what we're talking about is that it feels like every part of the Christian experience, because I think most of us watch movies and shows and do
especially
that kind
this
of
last
stuff.
year, right?
Right, especially as we've been stuck at home. You're really loving the baking shows. And
we're literally almost out of baking shows.
that is how bad it is.
I
But
swear we've watched
Sorry.
all
Have
of
you
them.
actually tried to cook anything from them yet, though?
yes,
Okay, great.
Actually,
then that's
so-
good. You've experienced like the full
I've come full circle.
full
that's
steps of the
problem.
process. Now you just need to get a camera and videotape yourself doing it, so that somebody else can.
I have not baked bread though the whole time, so I feel like that's a badge of honor.
Okay, that's fair. I sidetracked you, and I'm sorry.
Yes.
What were we talking about?
Regardless, I think it's important because that's something that's a really big part of I think a lot of people's lives is being immersed in TV and in movies, but we don't really want to be immersed in the Christian ones.
Not everyone.
And not everyone. And
Yeah.
and I think it's all too often I feel like I hear one of two things, which is either, well, that's their fault for not wanting, like, it's your fault for not being interested in that.
Right.
Or I hear, well, just watch it sometimes and it's fine. Or it's, you know what I mean?
Right,
Like,
yeah.
whereas it should say something that we don't really want to watch these movies.
Yeah.
I feel like we should just be reconsidering. Instead of blaming people for not being interested in them, why don't we look and see, okay, how can we fix this?
And vice versa as well, though, because I definitely don't want anyone to feel like I don't want anyone who might actually really enjoy watching Christian media to feel like I am actually harping on anyone for preferring it or even liking it.
Yeah. Well,
I'm definitely just talking about my own personal interests, and I don't think that is silly or like immature or anything.
No.
If that's actually what you prefer, like at all.
Well,
We're just the reality is that a lot of Christians now, especially younger ones, are just very turned off by it, and that is a reality that we have to address.
The other thing I wanted, like a lot of Christian movies that are better in essence, I think are directed towards a different audience than us. And I think
fair.
as our age range, like they aren't directed towards us. You have your VeggieTales, I'm still trying to think of the other animated movie that I think of every time. But like your VeggieTales and other animated things that are
Prince
directed.
of Egypt. I don't know.
Actually, in particular, Prince of Egypt falls into this category too. That
My
are
favorite
directed
movies of all
towards.
time.
They're directed towards that younger audience that get them embraced in it early, that kind of a thing. And then you have your Passion of Christ. You have your Courageous, which is designated towards families.
You don't think Passion of the Christ is for kids?
No.
No.
Passion, sorry.
No.
Passion of
I'm not
Christ,
saying it against you.
It's the opposite end. It's,
Yeah.
It's designated for those who are older, strong in their faith, are looking for an Easter Christmas movie or anything. Easter Christmas movie. That's not what I meant to say, but close
Easter
enough to what I
Lent.
meant.
Like I said, we're a bit delirious today.
But you have those movies, and there's nothing designated towards our age range, in my opinion.
That's fair.
I was like looking up things, and it was telling me that there was a newer TV show called The Chosen of some type that is a Christian movie or a Christian TV show
really?
that's pushed towards our age range.
Interesting.
So I would suggest that we maybe check that out, see what we think.
Yeah, we'll look into it for sure.
But I think that I had a point and I can't get to it now because I forgot it. There's nothing designated towards us.
That's fair.
I think Christian like producers, Christian movies, all that kind of thing, do a phenomenal job of reaching people young. But if you're going to get people young hooked, then you have to continue with them.
Yep, and I think, like we talked about a little bit last week, the church is really not great at targeting the in-between. we're not very good at it. And I think it's just a huge market that we're really market. Wow, that sounds really bad. Wow.
Oh,
Okay,
boy.
guys, I
We're looking
clearly
for a business.
invalidate everything that there's a desire for those kinds of films for people our age that are relevant. You know, I would love to have things that are movies that are spiritually fulfilling that I feel like could really apply to situations that I see in the real world.
Yeah, no kidding.
I would love that. But in order to do that, they have to, like you said, actually intentionally go seek out those kinds of things. And that becomes a little bit more difficult. There is also something, and I wanted to watch it, but I couldn't find a good place to watch it. There is a documentary about Christian films and the making behind it. And I'm trying to find the name of this documentary right now. It's on PureFlix. Which
a lot of things. Sorry,
I don't have.
In my search to try and find the other TV show that I was looking for, PureFlix came up a lot, which I know that's something that we talked about a little bit earlier. And I'm kind of wondering if there's validation in understanding it a little bit more and finding out what's actually on it. I wasn't actually able to see what was on it when I looked at their website, and so I was going to bring up something. But you can't see on their website unless you sign up for it, a free trial or anything like that. So I may have to free trial it up and see what's there.
And this documentary is called Real Redemption: The Rise of Christian Cinema.
Ooh.
And it came out in I think it came out this year. It's 2021 now. I think it came out last year. And I'm really interested in watching it. So if any of you guys have watched it, please leave a comment. Let us know. Was it any good? Did it change your perspective on why Christian movies are made the way they're made? Did it make you want to watch more Christian movies? Or do we have more to look forward to in the future? I'd really like to know. And I also just want to put out there that movies in particular are something that is very, very preference driven. And so, especially the way that Christians interact with movies. And one thing I didn't want to do was talk about kind of what we've talked about a lot with books and with D&D and with some of the other conversations we've had around this is a lot of different Christians have a lot of different rules for interacting with media and with movies. And I really think you have to figure out what works for you and your family. I think it's best if we avoid saying all Christians should only do blank, 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 blank.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Those kinds of statements I think are just a little bit unhealthy because for some people, different things work in different contexts. And so if you only like Christian movies, that's awesome. Like Elijah had said earlier, that's really cool.
Give us your recommendations.
Yeah, we'd love to see your favorite ones.
That one in particular. If you only like Christian movies, I want to know what people like genuinely love out of the Christian movie industry. Yeah. Sorry, that's.
And if you don't like Christian movies at all, but you do have some that you have seen that you did like, I would love to hear those too.
Even if you have some that you completely hate and you think are worth a good laugh, pop that in there too. I need a good laugh.
But I think that there's a lot of preference-driven conversation around movies, and so I would just encourage. We're not saying one way or another is any better than anything else.
Watch for yourself.
Watch for yourself, and I really think, again, our heart here at Church is Stupid.
Come a butt.
Is to talk about these topics and talk about how they interact with the Christian life, and one of the reasons why Christians are potentially starting to steer away from church, and some of that has to do with the fact that a lot of things aren't relevant to us.
Yeah.
And I think Christian movies is one really big area where that's true.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know we're nearing the end. I would like to at least end on my part with a quick VeggieTale fact that I've been sitting on for a while. Because I heard
that why you haven't been talking? You've been just ready.
Been looking up.
Well, I was trying to find the fact that I was thinking of.
Hit us with the fact.
What's his name? Phil Vischer, who is the creator of VeggieTales, or one of the creators. I don't know exactly to what extent his mother had an influence on the creation of the show. I know she had influence, but I don't know if it was like partnership or advice or anything. But the creator, Phil Vischer's mom, has a PhD in Christian education, and she gave him some initial rules when they were creating VeggieTales.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the first rule, which is why you don't see really anything about the New Testament, it's pretty much all Old Testament, is that you will not portray Jesus as a vegetable. That was the rule. But
That's fantastic.
is equally interesting, but kind of less funny. The second rule was try your best to not imply that vegetables can have redemptive relationships with God, which sounds funny, but it actually, if you
Probably would offend some vegans.
well, I think more of what it was is, and I think this also probably did. It's why another reason why I think it really, really did reach, really reach out to kids, and kids really liked VeggieTales, was because I don't know if it was every episode, but on most episodes, Bob the Tomato, he would always speak in second person and end the episode with, God made you special and he loves you very much. He would never say he loves us very much, because they never wanted to actually imply that like it was
That's
about the vegetables.
so
It was
funny.
about the audience and the kids who were watching.
I never would have thought about that.
Yeah, so I thought that was the first part was a really funny one. If you were ever wondering why you didn't see any VeggieTales about Jesus, it was because specifically they didn't want to portray him as a
I don't think I've
vegetable.
ever wondered that exact question, but I'm glad I have the answer now.
Exactly,
Right.
that's what I thought.
We are completely out of time, though.
Yes.
So for all of us here at Church is Stupid,
Comma butt.
I'm Andy,
I'm Ruth.
And I'm Elijah.
and that has been your Thursday episode for the week. Enjoy the rest of your lives, I guess. I don't know. Come back to us.
Go in peace.
Too formal.